Hi there, I'm Ken Cowisher at Teletoon Studio. Today I'd like to talk to you about melodic ukulele playing. First of all, we won't be using a pick, we'll mostly be using these two fingers, sometimes a third finger. The first thing we're going to try and do is just play the top two strings. This is an E and an A string. So we're just using our thumb and finger. Now the fact that one note never changes gives it that stability. Now this is something to play for a while because we're working on being even, but you'll also get a sense of how the minor scale works. So that's our minor scale with a pedal note. To make it major, we just have to raise this note to a C sharp. And you can play any type of melodic idea. Again, it's important to keep it even. That's what you want to be doing. So there's your major. The major scale and the minor scale are the two main tonalities we play in major and minor. So this is a very simple way to start thinking melodically and at the same time practicing your right and left. So we can take a straight C major chord. So all we're doing is we're putting a note on the C, so it gets C, E, G, C. So that makes the most simple chord. That's a major chord. If we add just a sixth note, so if we play all the open strings, again, thumb, finger, and then I'm using my thumb to play the high C. That's now a C6 chord because you've added the sixth note of the scale. The major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's why it's called a 6. A lot of music chords are just logically building the chord, and the title tells you what you're adding. Likewise, if you wanted a major 7, you add the 7th note of the scale. A dominant 7 or a 7 chord is just a flatted 7. And then there's your 6th chord, because that's the 6. Something in the way you move. And then we have another chord. But the beginning is just C to C major 7 to C7. That you can hear, and the melody is based off the chords there. So that's our C major 6 chord. If we add one more note, that chord is now starting to become a scale. It's what we call a pentatonic scale. If we add the second note, we get a C, a D, E, G, A, C. You can play the scale, pentatonic scale. The most common way to play it is open string 2nd fret, open string 3rd fret, open string 3rd fret. And if you want to continue on, just coincidentally all the rest of the notes are dots, so just follow your dots. Now you're playing up in the lead ukulele area. You have to get your ukulele face on. So that's the pentatonic scale. And that scale is very useful. It's almost a foolproof scale. There's many songs. Amazing Grace uses that scale, and it's also considered the blues scale. If I'm playing a C major chord, then it's a C pentatonic. But if I play an A minor, now it's an A minor, or what we call the blues scale. We just have to add one note. That makes it a blues scale. That blues note. So the note between these two white dots makes the pentatonic into a blues scale. So that's our pentatonic scale played the most common way. There's an alternative way if we use our open strings, because that's going to play the open string, so my thumb can play the D, which is the note you on the 2nd fret. Then my first finger plays this open string, the bottom string, which is the G, and then now if you want to continue up here, then you're going to have to learn to use your finger and on one string. This is a good exercise. You can do this while watching TV if your partner doesn't strangle you. From the pentatonic scale, we can now get a major scale by adding 2 notes. We have to add the 4th note, so we have the pentatonic scale has C, D, and E, but now we're adding an F, which is a semitone above the E. So that's something to note. Between E and F, there's no note in between. And then we get the G, which we've already been playing. Now you can also play it on the open string. Then we get A, which is open, and B is the other new note. 2nd fret. A, B, C, C, B, A, G, and then F is, and there's your C major scale. So here's with all the, it's open, 2nd fret, open 1st, 3rd, open, 2nd, 3rd. Very important to memorize and be able to play this. Just up and down, but then make melodies from it. All a melody is changing the pattern of the scale. There's already a melody right in the scale with Joy to the World. You just have to know to add the right rhythm. Without the rhythm, it's... Actually, another way to play C major scale is this pattern, and then the same pattern on the high string. So you're playing a major shape on the C, then a major shape on the G. Funny enough, if you want to play a real cool minor scale, all you have to do is switch the middle finger down a semitone. That's what we call the Dorian scale. But it's used a lot in pop music all over the place. Funk music uses it. Jazz uses it. These days it's a very accessible chord and another to play with. And here you can see the shape of it. So the C major scale played open, we play the C, D, E, F, the standard way, and then we play the G and A on the out strings, and then the B, C you can play almost as if it's a chord, and you can even go up and play D and E like this. And if you really want to go, okay, let's talk a little bit about playing melody with the use of chords. But these three strings here, that creates a major chord. So right away you've learnt there's only three shapes of a major chord on the ukulele. On any instrument, for a triad, there's only three shapes, and you've got one right there. So that's a third of your chords. To make a minor chord, you have to know which one's the third. Just let me explain that. So we have a C. To make a chord, all you're doing is you're taking the first, third, and fifth note. So we have 1, 2, 3 is the E, F, and G. Now this G can be found here, the open string. You can play the same note twice. So really, even though there's 4 strings, most of the time you're only playing 3 notes. So in a major chord, that means it just gives you another option. You could think of it as more complicated, but this simple shape could also be played this way because this is the same note. F chord, F chord. So that really is the same shape, even though it's 2 shapes. There's 2 shapes to play the exact same chord. And the only difference between major and minor is the third. On the third, you lower the third for minor. So here's our C major. You lower the middle note here for minor. But if you're playing at this shape, you lower the minor like this. Now for myself, I find it easier to play a bar chord here for major. So if I want to go C major, I would just play a bar chord. And to make it minor, I would play it on these strings. So that's where you have a choice of which shape you want. So here is your what we call root position major, root position minor. And whatever this string is the name. So this note's an F, so we're playing an F major here, an F minor. This is E major. Here's E minor. There's a melody with a chord. Here's our C chord. If we want to make it a C chord with E in the bottom, we'd have our E here, G, C. So this is also a major, but this is what we would call first inversion. Now there's 2 ways of playing it. On these strings, it's diagonal. I find it easier to play like this in this case. But that's first inversion because this is not the lowest note, because this is actually the highest note because the ukulele is tuned that way. Because the third's on the bottom now, that's your minor with these strings, or you can play it this way. Personally, I always find the bar chords easier. So there's your C. That's a C minor. So now whatever we know this note to be is the root. So if you play this, that's an A string, it's A minor. This is a B, B minor. B flat minor is in between, or A sharp minor. So we have one more shape, and that is with the 5th on the bottom. Now on the bottom 3, it really looks like this shape. So there's 2 shapes. So the third's here, so to make this minor, you just lower it. So if this is a G, this is an E chord, and here's an E minor. So here's your major chord on the bottom, and minor, it's this string that's moving. So those are your shapes. So if we want to go through our chords through an order of cycle of fifths, we start with our C chord, which are these straight 3 chords. And then our next one is F. In every case, what chord you're on, the C isn't going to move. The third is always going to go up a semitone to the new root, so the E goes to the F, the new root, and the G goes up a tone to an A, and that makes our F chord. And the F's on the top now, so that stays, and we're going to go to a B flat chord. So to get a B flat chord is this. This is a first inversion B flat because the third's in the bottom. And now this is an E flat. Recognize this shape? It's just a bar chord. So we've copied all 3. We're now repeating. This is what we call root position. And here's is our second inversion, because now the fifth's on the bottom. So that shape, although it looks different because before we had an open string, we played it down here like this. This is what it looks like from now on. And then we go to this shape, which we'll recognize. And from that we go to an F sharp, which would be here. Remember, this was our F, so that's F sharp. And then it just, even though we're way up the neck, those are your only shapes. You've learned them all. And then you're going to get to know all these notes by going over that. It's a great exercise. And for all of them, to make it minor, you lower the third. So you have to know where the third is. So here's this major and minor. This major goes nice to this minor. Major, minor. Another great device to learn is learning to play in thirds. And what thirds are is playing notes 2 notes away. Basically, you skip 1 note to get to a third. So these 2 strings naturally a third. That's a major third. If you go here, this is a minor third, this shape. So thirds would be base of between these 2 shapes, and you can go up the scale playing with just those 2 shapes. This shape here is the same as this. And then this would be the minor third. Major third, minor third, minor third. So thirds are great for playing parallel melodies. Like harmonies are often just off by a third because thirds move really well together. Sometimes to practice a major scale, I like to use Pachelbel's canon. It's a chord progression if you can get a hold of it. I'm using iReal Pro. But it's nice because it's really easy just to play on a major scale against Pachelbel's canon. And then you can practice some of these things we've talked about today. Just the major scale. Leave space and imagine where you'd like to hear the melody. it's not the note you expect in your head, that's okay. Just see where that note naturally wants to go. Does it want to go up or does it want to go down? Does it want to stay there? I'm not thinking about chords. All I'm thinking is the C major scale. Then I can play some of these. I can practice playing in thirds. Pentatonic scale. Let's go back to the major scale. What if we used a pedaling technique? So I spent quite a bit of time talking about how to build chords. So how do we use chords in soloing? So we're going to play a pattern that goes to C, F, C, G. Every second chord's a C, which will play this shape. The diagonal, the F is a bar chord. Back to C, and then we have a G. Those are our three shapes. After we play that for a while, I will be adding passing notes. Passing notes are just notes that are right adjacent to the chord, so you can get or on the F, and on the D, you could just even slide your hand back and forth. But as you see, it's the shape with added notes. So we can also deal with the pentatonic shapes. You could get away with just playing C pentatonic. That will work, but it's always stronger if you can follow the actual chords with the pentatonic work. So on a C, to get to a G, the only thing you have to do is make this C go to a B. And now this pentatonic scale being C will turn into a G pentatonic. Just one note. And then back to the C. And to make the C into an F, we just make this E into an F. All the rest of the notes are the same. So those are your pentatonic scales. So we have 3 chords. Every second one's a C. So we start on a C, which is this shape, go to an F, C, to a G. Start off really simple, just get the shapes down. Then you can play with the patterns. You'll find all kinds of patterns there. So that's just using only the notes in the chords. You could now add beside notes, the passing notes or the tension notes. So on a C, we have these 3 notes. So any note below it, you could actually slide your whole hand up like this. The pentatonic scale, important thing is what note do you change? So the C, you could only play the C, it'll work. So when we're going from C to an F, we just change this note to this. The E goes up to an F. And on the G, this C is going to go down to a B. So you play the B here, play the C or the F, So at the beginning it seems really hard, but if you persevere and start to notice what chords you're playing, and actually a lot of this comes from when you learn a melody, kind of see, is that melody coming from a place of the scale or from chords? Or sometimes it's even between those two. So the more you pay attention, the more you'll learn. So I hope you enjoyed yourself and learned something. Thank you for watching. My name's Ken Cowlisher. This is Teletoon Studio. And I'd like to play out on an old standard. This is a Frank Sinatra number, Fly Me to the Moon.